Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. So today is the first craft of 2025. It is a spring craft. Boy, does it feel like spring. The sun has been blessing us all weekend, hasn't it? Oh my goodness. So yesterday I sat in my craft room this evening. I was having a great jolly old time and I made this little heart bunny decoration. I love it. This has been in my head for a little while. I actually got my inspiration from the Tilda books. I think there's a springtime one where they did a heart with a bunny on it. I loved it. And then there's a few other artists that I really like on Instagram also doing their own versions and I absolutely love them. So I will leave all of their kind of information down in the description. I always like to just credit all the artists and stuff that I take my inspo from. I made these with my own twist and I just thought I would share how I made them so you can make them too. So obviously I had to make another one to show you and I absolutely love them. Are these not the cutest little Easter decorations you have ever seen in your life? They don't have to be Easter, they can just be springtime or just any time of the year, but I'm feeling the Easter vibes. I think we're going to do a lot of Easter crafts coming up because I want some new decorations, very cottagey inspired, a little bit farmhouse in there, and I absolutely love them. So anyway, yeah, hopefully you enjoyed today's video. Let me know if you like the crafts, if you want to see more crafts. Even if you don't, there's more coming, so expect those. Anyway, I'm just gonna get straight on into it.
So on Friday night I came in and used a heart template that I've used on previous projects and just started sketching out a bunny shape, which is how I wanted the bunny to be. Just played around with it a little bit till I ended up with a nice symmetrical bunny at the right proportions. Obviously you can make this however big or small you want. Taking my new or found template, I was then able to trace around this onto a piece of fabric. I used this brown piece of cotton fabric as I thought that would make a nice bunny colour. I actually just traced around it on one side, folded the fabric over it and just pinned that down so that I could sew the entirety of that on my sewing machine. With a heart template I just basically did the same, traced it on one piece, folded it over right sides together and pinned it down. With my pieces then I went over to the sewing machine and just sewed around the entirety of it. I did not leave any gaps for turning it the right sides way around. I just sewed all the way around both the heart and the bunny shape. With the heart I did insert a little loop of cotton string inside so that that all lined up with the kind of like I don't know what you call it, but the little point of the heart at the top, and that just created the hanging loop. You can add this in afterwards, but I just find it easier to sew it in with the machine just to make sure it's nice and secure. Once both pieces were entirely sewn, I actually just went back over to my desk and cut off all of the excess. I made sure to remove the pin and I actually removed the excess with just some pinking shears. I find that easier rather than creating notches around the curves and stuff of the heart and everything. If you don't have pinking shears, you obviously don't have to do that. You can use your scissors just to create some little notches. As you can see here, I'm doing that again in that little point of the heart just to make sure when I turn it the right size way around I have a nice smooth curve and there's no bulking of fabric or anything like that. So as you would have noticed, I didn't actually leave any openings. This is just to save a bunch of time. As the two pieces are being joined together anyway, I'm able to just create the holes where I need them to join. It makes the most sense. So for the heart I just pinched it together, made sure I'm not, you know, grabbing the string so that I don't cut through that. I've done that one too many times, honestly, just to make sure you're not cutting through the string or the back piece, and you just want to cut a kind of cross shape in the very center of where the bunny is going to lay, because the bunny going on it is going to cover up this hole anyway, so you may as well just save yourself the time of having to create a nice neat finished sewn opening like later on. It just makes so much sense doing this. You then want to create an opening in the same sort of way on the bunny as well, just on one side. Choose which side you want to be the back side and then just cut a strip down that, and you then get to stuffing. So typically I like to stuff my primitives with actual real wool. I didn't have any at this time, so I just used some polyfill. This was just from an old cushion that I had kicking around recently and I wanted to get rid of, and I was like, you know what, I may as well use the polyfill from that. So I just made sure to stuff that, and then I lightly tacked it shut on the back just so that none of that stuffer was going to come out. You don't have to do this, to be honest, because you're going to sew the two pieces together and that's going to be covered anyway, but I like to just do that so that I know that the stuffing is never going to come out. Lightly tack the back and then move on to decorating of the bunny. This is where the fun part really begins because you can do this in whatever way you want. I actually just tacked some raw pieces of the same fabric that I used on the heart, so I just took some offcuts of that, like the bits that were left out after I cut out the heart, and I just made that so it filled in the bunny's ears. Again, you can get creative as you want with this. I think this just ties it in nicely with the bit behind, so I left them raw edged as well so that they frayed out. I added a few little stitches along the bottom of the bunny. I stitched on its little face with some dark brown thread, as you can see, just stitched it on very slowly. This does take a little bit of time, but I just think the stitching it on it is nicer. You can paint this on if you want to with some fabric paint. You can use a little Sharpie. I've seen people do that in the past. I wouldn't probably recommend the Sharpie, but people do it and have great success and they like that effect. So yeah, definitely play around with what suits you best. So I just stitched on the nose first of all, and then I used the French knot kind of technique just to create the eyes. You can use beads here, you can use little bits of felt, you can use toy safety eyes, whatever works best for you, just go ahead and do that. But like I said, I used French knots, and I think that suits the little bunny character that I had in mind just perfectly. To age them slightly, I actually just took some dark acrylic paint, all watered down, dry brushed that onto the whole piece just to make it look a little bit more aged, a little bit more dirty, a little bit more worn in rather than brand new. I just kind of added some shading around the edges, around the edge of the ear pieces there, and yeah, I really like that. So next I went ahead and I stuffed the heart, and again in the same way I just lightly stitched together that opening just to make sure all of the stuffing was staying in place. To decorate the bunny even further, I then decided to take a long strip of that offcut to wrap around as like a little scarf for the bunny, and then I actually took one of these little mother of pearl buttons I've had in my collection for the longest of times. Like, my granddad gave me this jar in 2017, I think it was, or maybe 2016, and I've had this since then, full of buttons. I absolutely love it. So yeah, I just took one of those buttons and sewed that on down to the bottom. Again, you can get as creative as you want. For the bunny's whiskers, what I actually did for here was I took a little bit of that cotton string that I used on the heart, and then I just split the threads so that I had one singular piece, and I just sewed that into place just underneath the eyes. I just kind of folded in half so it looked like two whiskers were coming out of the face. Just pulled these tight so it almost gave it like a quilted effect, and yeah, just stitched those into place. Now honestly, don't worry here about the back of your bunny being a little bit messy. We're going to stitch this to the heart anyway, and this is when we do so. So you just want to make sure that you put it into place where you want it, and then just stitch away around the bunny, just nice and tightly where it naturally sits. You don't want it to be pulled in too far so it looks like, you know, it's sucked into the heart or anything. You just want it to be sitting nicely on there. You can also glue this in place, to be honest. I like to sew because I don't like glue finishes on things. I think they just last a longer time with sewing. So yeah, I would recommend stitching this if you have the time, but if not, just glue it. No one will know, especially if it's just for you. You can leave the heart like it is, or you can go one step further. I went one step further with mine and decided to make it more quilted. I just wanted it to have a bit more kind of oomph to it, if that makes sense. So I went in with my stitching, just putting these little kind of like 2 to 3 mil stitches all over it, just pulling it tight so it like quilted through the heart, if that makes sense. So it pulled it in and like puckered it basically, and I did that all over with around about a 2 centimeter gap in between each one. This was very random. I just went with the feel of the piece until I was happy with the kind of pattern that I had created. So once I had done that, I then created this runner stitch here. As you can see, I'm just going back and forth throughout the front and the back piece of the heart, creating like this little channel. This created a nice quilted like hand finished edge all the way around, and again I think this really sets it apart than just keeping it plain. I just think it adds just so much more detail, and yeah, makes it look so much more handmade and cute and just countrified. I don't know, it really filled me with joy. I just did that all the way around, basically just going in and around, and then the final touch for me was just tying a knot in the top of that string just to kind of like finish that off. I felt like it just needed something extra there, and a knot was just perfect for me. So that's how they turned out. The one I made the night before was the pink one, and then the green one. I absolutely love them. Obviously they're so customizable and you're able to just decorate them how you want. So if you do make them, definitely tag me, as I would genuinely love to see.
Okay, so there we go. There is the tutorial part, and here is the final reveal. Are you ready? Look. Are you joking? They're absolutely gorgeous. Obviously we have the lighter bunny on the kind of like cream and pink colorway, and then this one here's the sage with the pink pattern. I love like the little kind of hand quilted effects. I think that's lovely. I love the little aging part of the bunnies themselves. Like, I don't like things to look too clean. I also don't like them to look too dirty. You know, and some primitive pieces just look a little bit too dirty, but I think these just look perfect. That perfect kind of blend, well, at least for my taste. So hopefully you also like them. And yeah, that's all I've got for today. So hopefully you enjoyed it and enjoyed hanging out with me for this weekend's little craft. I really enjoyed my time, I'm not gonna lie. So yeah, thanks so much for tuning in. If you did like this video, please do give it a like. Please subscribe if you haven't already, because that helps me out more than you could know. And that's it for today. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you very soon for another video.